internet.
CosmicNecronauts is ready to go.
CosmicNecronauts is online.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is pretty fun. Welcome to Cosmic Necronauts. We are going to be talking about game development, making all kinds of games, video games, mobile games, anything that you can basically play with a joystick, paradise, piece of paper. And so I'm Nathan Sumsion,
And I'm Matthew Armstrong.
and we're a couple of experienced game developers. We've both been doing this for over 20 years, and we thought it would be a lot of fun to just talk a little bit about some of our experiences making games, what we do, what we look for. We thought we'd drag some friends and former coworkers in to talk about their experiences and just kind of in general talk about tips and tricks and advice that we can give other people that are aspiring to make games.
Nathan, like between the two of us, I mean, would you say we have like around like 40 years of experience? If we had both of our, video games and writing and comics and all of these things.
Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of people that are playing our games now were not born when we were first releasing our games.
True, sobering, very sobering.
The first game that I ever made was on the Nintendo 64. And
oh yeah, which was that? That wasn't a Kodiak, was it? Like
no,
I worked on a game the 64. I worked on it was a VW bug game on the 64.
Oh yeah,
do you remember that one at all? What did you do?
No, for me it was I worked on Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So at Acclaim then.
Yes, when I was at Acclaim.
Aha.
So, I mean, fun fact, we were we wanted to do this stream, maybe a podcast of some kind, and we'd been talking about this idea last year, and we got everything ready to go, and we actually launched an introductory episode last year, and then I ended up switching jobs, moving out of the country, relocating. Then we had this whole pandemic thing hit, and so it's been just really crazy. And so I think we're finally in a place now where we can try it again.
Yeah, and that's the important thing in life, is to try and try and try again. No matter how many times it knocks you down, you get back up.
Yes.
And I think eventually everybody's going to be saying, I got 2020'd. That's going to become a new verb in the vernacular of society, to be 2020'd, aka, and everybody understands immediately. Yeah, that was a dark year. But maybe you're in the future and things are a lot better now.
Oh, that would be So if you're watching this video at some point in the future, hopefully it is a much nicer time.
Yes, a kinder, gentler time. Or the water wars have started, and California has fallen off in the ocean.
Or the aliens have showed up to put us out of our misery.
Yes, those guys.
So maybe we can go ahead and reintroduce ourselves, talk a little bit about who we are, what some of our experiences, and then we can talk a little bit about what we're planning to do on future episodes of our stream.
That sounds great.
Matthew, you want to start us out? Let's tell us a little bit about how Matthew came to be where you are today.
Yes. Let's see. Well, I grew up in a very small town called Whitefish, Montana, and it's a town of lumberjacks and skiers, and it's filled with dark forests, and it's nobody's ever heard of Whitefish. It's right by the border of Canada and Glacier National Park. It's by a tiny town called Kalispell, and that is by a slightly less tiny town called Missoula, and most people have heard of Missoula. But so I grew up there. We moved here to Utah. I started working right out of right when I was 21. And I just kind of had a choice where I could go to school or I could kind of start working video games. School at the time didn't teach CG animation, at all, which I was really into. 3D animation, which is kind of funny because I eventually turned my back on 3D animation and just went straight to concept art. But that's what I spent most of my time doing. But I was so into 3D animation, the only way to learn about this new form was to kind of work for these companies because they'd train you if you could draw. So I started working when I was 21, and I worked for a number of game companies. I've done tons of games. We've done Disney Infinity. We've worked on Marvel and Star Wars, and Toy Story, and all the Pixar projects, all the Disney projects. And I worked there on Disney Infinity at a place called Avalanche. Disney Interactive for 9 years, and they gave us a pass to Disneyland, and we used it a lot, and I miss it. And let's see. In the meantime, throughout that too, I've been, really fortunate. I've been able to do write and draw a children's picture book. I've worked on illustrations for Narnia. I did the New York Times bestselling Narnia pop-up book.
That was so
And
cool.
yeah, and it's a and then did some comics. I'm in like 3 of the Flight anthologies, and then I did a few other comic books. One for Tori Amos comic book Tattoo. So comics, video games, picture books, and it's been great. And currently, I'm an art director and a creative director at a little pinball company. And here I am. Just somehow, for a long time there, I thought I'd actually go, back to college. I really recommend college. I think the industry's changed a lot now, but
Yeah, I agree.
but I never quite got back. I just kept finding really cool things to work on, and I feel really lucky.
Well, and like you, there were several times where I was debating going back to school, completing a master's degree, but I was just having so much fun making games, I never quite got around to it.
Yeah.
I know it's funny for me. I think I started in a very similar spot as you did. I bounced around to a few different schools. I kept switching majors, and one of the first bits of advice I would give anyone that wants to make games is don't bounce around to different schools and switch majors. It's an expensive way to do things, but
Right. Yeah.
I in school there weren't any programs really for specifically for 3D animation or game design, for sure at that time. And so
Yeah.
I had been taking English classes. I'd taken a lot of architecture and drafting classes, and I was finally settled on a program where I was studying 3D art and animation because I thought I wanted to, build 3D models, for video games. That's what I really wanted to do. But as a hobby, I was designing role-playing games and board games just for fun. And a friend of mine recommended that I apply for a game design position, and that fortunately that ended up working out. And once I realized, it's not just artists that are needed in video games, but not just artists and programmers, but game design was an actual need.
It turns out game design is actually very important.
I've really never looked back. That's something that I've just really enjoyed doing. So for 20 years, like I said, I started out at Acclaim. I made a Supercross game, worked on a wrestling, Legends of Wrestling 2. I believe we worked on that one together.
It's true.
I worked on Circus Maximus, a chariot racing game.
I drew some gladiators for that.
Yeah. Oh, did you? That's right. That's where I think that's where we first met.
That's right. It was when I first started working for Kodiak, And this guy goes, "Have you met Nate Sumsion?" I was like, "No, and he's like, "You need to meet Nate Sumsion," and we never stopped talking.
Yeah, that's true. And because I've ended up kind of moving all over the place. After I worked at Acclaim, I went out to Germany for a while. I worked on the first Far Cry with Crytek, and
Yeah.
then I came back to Salt Lake and worked at Avalanche for it was a little over 6 years. Worked on the Toy
Uh-huh.
Story and Meet the Robinsons games, and a little bit of the
Yeah.
early work on Disney Infinity. Then I moved
Mhm.
again, and for 7 years I was the lead designer on Wizard 101, which
Oh yeah.
was fantastic. I mean, I just it's such a great game, and I really really enjoyed working on an MMO. And then we ended up working together again for a little while, making pinball machines,
Yeah.
and that was a
Uh-huh.
lot of fun. And
That was super
that
awesome.
that was kind of right when you know where I mentioned last year. I ended up leaving there, and now I'm living up in Montreal and making mobile games for Ludia, and it's super exciting.
Right.
And and I get to dust off some of my old French skills and put that to use. But yeah, not
Ah, Quebecois.
yeah. I mean, while I don't have as many comics under my belt as you do, I have written one single comic book that was
Well,
quick.
it's been published, and
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
you have lots of great stories written.
Well, that's true. I've got a graveyard pile of half finished story ideas and game ideas and book ideas, and but I
All the best creatives do.
yeah. But and last year, my first book was published, which was Necropolis PD, and that's
Yes.
super exciting. And I guess I can officially say that I am working on a sequel to it right now. And I mean the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in my writing routine, and so I'm a little behind where I wanted to be, but it is coming along strongly now that I'm getting back into the groove of things. So yeah,
It's good to hear. If it was on the other shelf, it's in the other room, or I'd grab it and show the world, because
uh,
it's like this big old awesome book. It's got a great cover,
it
and I'm
does.
jealous of the person who got to do it. It's just it's a really cool book.
Yeah. So
Necropolis PD. Check it out.
thank you, thank you. That was a good plug. So yeah, but when I'm not making video games and I'm not playing video games, I'm playing board games and card games and analyzing game systems. Ironically, I think right now I'm playing and running more role-playing game sessions than I ever have before.
Yeah.
Because after all those times I moved and I had to leave my gaming groups behind, everyone's online now, and so
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun with rejoining my old gaming groups, and we've been playing on Roll20, and um,
Mm.
that's been a lot of fun. And I know you're also playing in some uh, role playing game groups.
Yeah.
Tell me.
After all these months of isolation, I'm with two Dungeons and Dragons groups right now. Yeah, we're using Roll20, and it's been great. And I'm glad the technology at least lets us all kind of be able to reach out to each other, because I don't see nobody, no time.
Well, so that's a little bit about who we are. We've both been making games for a long time. Different kinds of games, and now we're still working on projects that we right now I think both of us are on unannounced projects that we can't talk about. But
Yes, sadly, no.
I am excited about the day when I can talk about it because it's going to be really cool.
Really big
But
stuff.
yes, so I thought, so this episode tonight is more of a okay. So here's who we are. You know, here's what we've done. Um, Maybe now we can talk a little bit about what we're planning to do in future episodes.
Yes, interviews and more.
Yeah. So one nice thing about having worked 20 plus years in this industry for multiple companies, we've been at some places a long time. We've worked at places that have closed down, and I mean that's one thing when you're working for a studio that closes down, all those talented people scatter throughout the industry, and so we have friends and coworkers that are kind of all over the place.
I got friends everywhere, and they're doing everything.
And so little do they know that we are going to be hitting a lot of them up to come talk to us. And, so we'll be talking not only about concept art and game design, but we'll be talking to friends from all different aspects of game development. And we'll get them on here and have them tell us some fun development stories. We'll hear about what they're working on, how they got started, and just other advice and tips that we can give people to what you can do to either join us in this industry or start off on your own and make your own exciting stuff.
Oh yeah, like old war stories, and learn from our example, learn from our mistakes, learn from our successes. And
So,
you'll make games that we could only dream about.
there we go. Tonight we didn't really have much of a script or much of a game plan, but maybe I'll give you some time to think about this one. But what's one fun story that you have from game development? I know for me, just off the top of my head, when I think about what was a really exciting experience that I've had doing games. And I'm going to kind of cheat and do two of them because they both revolved around E3s that I went to. So, E3 at least 20 years ago, we both times I was working for Acclaim and I was sent out to E3 to work in the booth. And one of the so my first experience was I was there working the booth, showing off the Jeremy McGrath Supercross game, and I got to actually play the game with Jeremy McGrath because Acclaim had brought him in to do a signing event, and so
cool.
That was a lot of fun. He was just a really cool guy. I mean, not only was he crazy talented, but he was just fun to talk to. And just really nice overall. And it was fun, seeing his reaction to a game that was, based on him. And so that was exciting. And that's, it's definitely a little intimidating because you don't want him to hate it. Right? I mean, you put all
pressure's on. How many years did you put into it up to that point? A year?
Right, right. It was probably. I think, it was a little over a year, I believe, that we had put on that game. So, you definitely don't want him to be. Oh well, yeah. You want him to be excited. So that was fun, and then I think it was 2 years later, I was back out at E3 for when we released Legends of Wrestling 2. And for me, like of all the wrestling licenses I could have possibly worked on, Legends of Wrestling was definitely the one that I wanted. I mean, I grew up, being a fan of the kind of 80s wrestling, the Hulkamania,
Oh yeah, Hulk
Andre the
Hogan
Giant,
and
Ultimate Warrior
Randy
era.
Roddy Piper, whatever.
Right. Well,
All those guys.
and that was the fun experience, was that so Acclaim brought some of the wrestlers in to promote the game that year, and Roddy Piper was one of them. Super cool. I mean, it was such an awesome experience, meeting him, and I've always been just really impressed with professional wrestlers. Not only just physically, how demanding it is doing what they're doing, but the showmanship, kind of the charisma, playing up to the crowd and improvising and reading the moves of your opponent, and just all the work that goes into it is just really impressive. And so I got to meet Roddy Piper and Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart and Jimmy Hart. Those are the four wrestlers that were there that year, and man, all of them just super sharp, really professional, just and just really thrilled to be a part of it. And that was again, I mean, you definitely don't want to make those guys angry at you, right?
No,
And
they're huge.
so
They can break us like toothpicks. We're game developers.
that's
We have no
right.
strength.
Yeah, that's right.
Hands from our screens.
Yeah, I'll just push some buttons. That's about all I can. That's all I can manage to do. But I mean, it was really exciting. Not only getting reactions from fans and from people that were there, to see the wrestlers, but seeing people just being so enthusiastic about the product that you're making. And I mean, we make games not only because it's fun to make games, but we make games because we want people to have fun playing them. And
Yeah.
I
Something
want
really special and rewarding about if you ever get to the point where like somebody's playing a game that you worked on and they're just having a blast. I mean, it feels pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty awesome.
It really does. It's a good feeling. So that's that's something that I try and get out of every product that I work on. And I really want people to feel like if they're spending their money on a game that I've worked on, especially with kind of all the talented people that are on the team, working on a product. I mean, the game design, that's kind of where a lot of the fun of the product comes in. And you don't want to have this awesome looking game that's has a great great code base underlying it. Everyone else has done their jobs, and then it's not fun to play. So that's really, I want to make sure that people are enjoying the games that they're buying.
Right,
But
right.
anyway,
It's
so
something interesting is I always think about game designers is the sort of the science of fun, or how you must have to think about a game, what goes into the game, what makes it fun, some kind of setup payoff, some kind of and it's always kind of been an interesting mystery, and it's still a mystery, to think of the inner mechanics of tic-tac-toe and why it works and why it gets played for 100 years, and how what we're doing now is somewhere near a tic-tac-toe that's still
right.
it still works on human psychology or something. Like, anyway.
So I'm springing this on you, but do you have a fun
Oh
story?
yeah. I was like trying to think, like, so two cool things. Really short is it's like I've always loved comic books. I thought I wanted to be in comic books, but I keep doing video games. It pays the bills a little bit better than comic books, I'm afraid. But one day on Disney Infinity, they needed a Black Panther cover, and I was available, and so I was like, so I put it all together, and I used assets from here. I painted up a background. I redrew the Infinity version of Black Panther, and it got published. And so I've actually got a Marvel comic cover that I did, and that's pretty cool. And then
That's awesome.
then the other cool thing or one of my favorite things that happened to me ever was I'm quite the Star Wars fan. You might guess, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
those helmets right behind you totally don't give it away.
I don't know what would tip you off, but so anyway, so one day, so we're working on Disney Infinity, and we need to make episode 7, and nobody knew anything about episode 7 at the time, and how they set it up, the security on it was absolutely insane. I heard there were like 4 different screenplays of the game, and they were distributed. The names were changed, and certain events were changed. And then if anything leaked, the J.J. Abram and Lucasfilm police would know who to who to take out. So security was tight. Very, very few people in the world got to do this one thing. And the thing was, they had a secret room, and you couldn't bring recording devices, and you couldn't bring food. Sometimes I did though bring food in there, and you couldn't bring anything but paper. And only like 3 people could go in there into the secret room, which had a code on the door. They had a hard drive that IT would have to bring up, and it would had like a little number pad on it. And they did that. They plugged it into the computer, and on that hard drive was like 45,000 pictures of Star Wars. All the new stuff. At that point, Ray wasn't called Ray, Finn wasn't called Finn. They were all using their code names. But I got to see the whole movie like more than a year before it came out, like characters and
Cool.
and spaceships and stuff like that. And what they needed was, for whatever reason, for security, this came down from the top, so they need like say the X-wing fighter, pose black X-wing fighter. They can't give anybody a JPEG of it in the world. They can't give somebody electronic image of it. So for whatever reason, they decided what they'd do is they'd have an artist like me go into the secret room and draw up the pose X-wing, and then we could give our outsourcing companies and our satellite studios, we could give those concept art, concept paintings of the X-wing. And since it was Disney Infinity, like I would take the monsters, and I would take the spaceships, and I kind of squish them down into Infinity kind of style, which is kind of squat, and boy, that was fun. Just to go. It was like you go into a secret room, for a few hours a day, and just sitting there drawing spaceships, from a world that I loved so much as a kid growing up. Wow. But that was quite the trip. And also it's kind of funny, like the secret spy nature of it. You're walking around, in civilian clothes, with the secret knowledge that, yeah, I know about Ray. I know about Poe.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that was fun.
So, yeah, I think going forward, we can share some more stories like that. From our experiences making games. I know I've got several that I can share, and yeah,
He made a list. He made a list like this long. Like we have all sorts of topics and all sorts of experts in the field. Heads of studio, heads of state.
Right.
That hopefully will talk to us on record. we got some good stuff.
Yeah, and so and it'll also give other developers a chance to kind of plug the projects that they're working on right now, and things that have they've released, and some really exciting stuff that's but I think one of the motivations for us doing this was so many times when people would find out, at least for me, they'd ask what I do for a job, and I'd say, oh well, I design video games, and it's just people are always very curious. What does that mean? What do I do? How did I get this job? And kind of, of course, there's a lot of kids, and young adults. They're interested as well, and this. I mean, a lot of people are passionate about making games, and really the bar to entry the tools that are available now are, so much more, easy to pick up and get started than they were in our day. I mean, I remember my senior year at my university, I was learning the first iteration of Maya, and it was using SGI machines, but the art, my art department didn't have enough money for the SGIs, so we had to go across the street to the Space Dynamics lab, and they had a supply closet with some leftover SGI machines that we set up in this supply closet so that we could render all of our animations. And I mean, a lot
like talking back in the day when it would just go line by line,
right.
you like ray trace something, and you go home and go to bed, and then come back in the morning and hope it still was running.
Right. Yep. When I was working on Jeremy McGrath's Supercross, sometimes we would make a change to the level design of a track, and we'd commit it, and we'd go home for the night, and then we'd come back and the next day to check out the build and see if our change worked or not. And if it didn't, we'd have to make changes again and check it in overnight. And now right. the tools are just so much better. I mean, there's the Unreal Engine, the Unity engine, the Cry engine, all these just really good top tier, professional game development tools that you can learn and get going with. But we can, and on the art side, I mean, Blender and lots of
they can make Pixar quality animation almost, with Blender. It's free.
Yep. So
it's probably set up to take over pretty soon here, is what my 3D expert friends say.
Well, so we'll talk about
stick
that.
With pencils myself. Blackwing.
Well, and we'll talk to some of those 3D expert friends, and we'll hear some more advice and tips. So, I don't know. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add? I think I'm kind of running out of things to talk about tonight.
This is probably a good inaugural episode. I think, stick with us. We're gonna get even better at this, and learn from the mistakes of learn from the mistakes of your elders.
There we go.
Make great and glorious things.
Well, I do want to give a shout out to CopperTop314. He helped get us set up on our Twitch channel here, and made everything look nice and pretty. So couldn't have done it without his help. And so we'll wrap up tonight, and we will be returning soon. Hopefully, no new worldwide disasters hit us before we can do another episode. And
no more, please. This is good. We're good.
Yep, the one was enough. So join us next time, and we'll start talking about more things, game development, and like I said, we'll have some exciting guests joining us in the near future.
Yes, Excelsior!
All right. Well, for those of you watching, thank you very much for joining us, and we will have web pages and YouTube channels and Facebook pages and Instagram and all of that hooked up and ready to go. If not already, then very soon.
Yes.
So
pardon our dust.
Thank you for joining Cosmic Necronauts. Until next time.